Welcome to day 4 of the Driven Daily Hill Climb CRX Prep build. We're getting near the end now. The engine's not in the car. The front suspension is completely removed, so I'm going to focus on that today, trying to just get all of the front suspension in and aligned enough that I can take it down to an alignment shop and get it dialed in. In addition, I need to finish up the fuel cell and start routing the lines for that today. And ideally, I'd like to get the seat mount in. And the seat mount is going to require a fair amount of work. So tomorrow, my plan is to get the engine in and hopefully get that running. And I don't really want to have to worry about anything else at the time. Now that I've got the first lower control arm out, I just need to pop the second one off and get the anti-roll bar off. Now that the lower control arms are out, I need to get these bearings pressed out so that I can put the new ones in. Shouldn't take long as I can find someone with a press. Having a good network of friends really pays off. Everybody's going to have access to some kind of tools that you don't. So Joe just happens to have a press and a sandblaster. Oh, these look good though.
I did all right. I mean,
how long were they on the sandblaster?
You got to do them by hand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
cabinet then. So Joe just came by and dropped off all the front suspension. I've got both uprights with the upper control arms already installed with new upper ball joints, new lower ball joints, and looks like the wheel bearings were fine, so we just left those. Also got the lower control arms, and he pressed out both bearings, both bushings, so those came out pretty cleanly, and he threw these in the sandblaster for me, which will make them a lot easier to clean up, and I guess I can paint them? Might as well. Now we're into early afternoon, and I invested a little bit of time into just clearing off a workbench. The more I thought about this front cross member, the more I realized I'm not willing to half-ass this. It's got to be right. This is where the bulk of my braking, all of my power, and all of my steering come from. So really, I could argue that this is the most important safety component in the entire car. This is what connects all of those parts. So I ground down all of the welds that I had done outside, which were certainly porous. They weren't nearly as good as they should be. I'm still impressed because they were done outside and they were very contaminated. But I'm just going to go over the whole thing and solidify all of the welds on it. I'm not willing to compromise on this. Finished up welding the front subframe. I've done a basic pass of stitch welding, which is going to make it strong enough to survive the race event with no questions whatsoever. Realistically, it'll probably last just as long as the replacement that I have coming. But I'm going to call that good, and I noticed while I was welding that I'm a little bit concerned about my levels of argon that I have left. Argon is the welding gas that I use for TIG welding. There's not much, if I'm being honest. I probably got about 20 minutes left of welding on that bottle, and I don't know if I can get another bottle tomorrow. I'm gonna try. So the problem with that is I still have to weld in my seat mounts, and I still have to weld in the fuel cell bracket, and that's probably going to be about 45 minutes, maybe an hour of actual welding. So that little bottle that I have is going to be insufficient. And I don't really have a solution. Clean looking parts are generally easier to inspect, so they're more likely to make it through tech. I'll call this a success. When I first bought the car and drove it home, I noticed that the brake pedal was super soft, and most of that was due to just being out of fluid, and that means I had a lot of air in the lines. So now that I've taken the calipers off, I know that these brakes need to be bled, and it's going to need some fresh fluid. I've tested the brake booster, and it holds pressure, so I can assume that that works, and I don't see any visible fluid leaks. I think it was just neglect. But while I'm in there, I figured I would replace the Softlines, which are starting to look a little old on these. Well, that's the end of day 4. I got a lot less done than I was planning on, and it's frustrating, but setbacks happen. So, as usual, if you like what you saw, hit like. If you want to see more, hit subscribe, and hopefully in tomorrow's episode, we'll have a bit more progress. Thanks for watching.